My dad started homesteading here in 1905 and started breaking the sod with a walking plow and oxen on the home quarter here. And
When did you build the house? What was your first house here?
well, this isn't the first house here. There was one house just north of here, on the north side of the yard, a much smaller house than this. My dad had this house built. He done all the digging for the basement and hauling all the gravel, all with the horses and wagon. And the house is all plastered inside, and he had to shovel that all through a screen and screen all the sand for plastering, and dug the basement in the evenings after he came in from the field. Every evening took some dirt out until he had a basement, and from there I guess it started turning into a house.
What year did he build this house?
And this house was built, I believe, in 26. Yeah, and I don't know what else we could say about the house. There was 10 kids raised in there anyway. Yeah, and we after my wife and I were married, we built this addition on the end here, and we put siding on. That's somebody in to put siding on, and reshingled the roof with asphalt shingles and things like that, and put a patio deck on it, and needs replacing again. It seems almost just like we only done it yesterday.
So when you got married to your wife, was your father still alive?
Yes. Yeah, we got married in 55, and my dad died in 58.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So how was he still living here when you got married?
Yes, we lived 1 year with my parents here, and then they moved into town, and he died. He died, I think, the same year. No, it couldn't have been the same year. They were in for a couple of years anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
So how was it decided that you would be the one to take over the farm?
Oh, I don't know. I was going in for an undertaker at one time, and anyway, my dad threatened that if I leave, he'll sell the farm, and I was all packed to go and start working with an undertaker, and he. I guess I decided it was maybe best if I stayed, and I stayed, and I'm still here after 55 years or better here. Yeah, 52.
So how long has the farm been in the family?
Well, since 1905. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell us what some of the other buildings are that are on the farm?
Well, not much. There's old granaries over this way. It's just storage, and for my chunk. we quit using those for grain quite a while back. We cut back on the land, so we didn't need as much storage, so I just used them to store my iron and things like that. And so these bins over here, they're not being used for grain anymore.
So when your dad took up homestead here, how much land did he have?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he just had the 2 quarters. I don't know exactly. They started out very small, eh? They didn't go like some guys nowadays, eh? When they start out, they can't start out with 2 quarters. They'd starve, Yeah.
What type of crops did he grow back then?
Oh, well, probably wheat was probably the main thing in those days. But they would seed oats to feed the horses and cows, eh? And later on they start seeding barley a bit too, eh? But in those days, canola, I don't think it existed around here at all, eh? Yeah.
How much land do you have now?
Well, we just farmed the 3 quarters just around the yard here, eh? Yeah. Yeah, well, we cut back, and my wife's health problems got worse, and then I had heart surgery as well, and since then we get a fair amount of custom work done. Eh?
What crops do you grow now?
Well, this year for the first year we have peas and canola and wheat, but for the first year it's that we ever tried peas. Eh? Yeah.
I didn't grow up on a farm, so can you take me through what the typical farming year looks like? Like when do you start seeding and getting ready for the season, and how do you do it? Take me through a year.
Well, first thing we first thing in the spring, eh? Yeah. Well, we let it dry up first, and then we get machinery ready and that. And the last 2 years, I haven't put the crop in myself. Her nephew, my wife's nephew, put the crop in for us, eh? And well, I kind of started there when I had 3 heart attacks, eh? And then quadruple bypass. Is that we started doing more of that, but maybe next year I'll try. Yeah, maybe when I'm older I'll try and put the crop in myself. Seems to work that way. If my hobbies that I have give me enough time to do it, yeah. But anyway, whatever. I guess.
Well,
so if you didn't grow up on a farm, huh?
after you got the crop put in, she likes to know what do you do next.
Of course, yeah. You want me to carry on with that, eh? Yeah. That seems to be a chore for me to start talking about that. After all these years of getting up, that's the first thing you do in the morning. In the springtime, is thinking of putting the crop in, and yeah. Well, then you get your machinery ready and. See if the old tractor is still running, and after sitting all winter, and I don't know what else.
Plant your crop, and
yeah.
after it grows so big, and then there's weeds that get sprayed out of it.
Yeah.
And hopefully it rains the rest of the summer, and then you get machinery ready for the harvest.
Yeah, it depends what you use. If you get a ear seeder in like her nephew has, it's a one-pass thing, but you have to spray ahead and spray afterwards. But with the old discer that we're used to using, you have to pre-work and then seed, and then you go over it again. You harrow and pack and go over it again, and then the spraying will come again, and so you spray again and. Maybe sometimes, depends what weeds you have, you maybe spray twice. But right these days with the chemicals you have, you do it in one pass, eh? You do your wild oats and your broadleaf weeds, all that, all at once, eh? Yeah. So, anyway, and that's the spring for you. You're going to ask me what we do all summer?
Yep.
Hope for rain. And hope it doesn't hail like today. Like we just had a good shot of hail here now. I don't know. We'll only know once we get out there and dries up a bit. Go out tomorrow and look. Eh? Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else that you do in the summer?
Well, if you can pick stone if you end up having make summer follow. You pick a few stone, but the summer seems to go by so fast. In no time it's ready. You got to get machinery ready for harvesting.
What is harvest like?
Pardon me?
What is harvest like?
Well, I don't know. You wait till it's ripe, I guess, and then or pretty close, and then you go out and swath and put it on swaths, and you think about waiting for it to get dry enough to combine, and the combine comes out. My wife helped truck the grain for almost 50 years for me. Yeah, it was always her job, and yeah. And she always hauled it with that old 1-ton back there, and this 1976 I bought her a brand new 3-ton, and that was quite a switch for her anyway. Yeah. Doesn't have air conditioning, but air conditioning on a grain truck isn't much good. It doesn't. It's not running long enough. It's always stopped or short trips, eh? So anyway, whatever. And then after, well, you hope it doesn't rain. All summer you want rain, and when harvest comes along, you don't want no rain. So you hope it doesn't rain over harvest, and if it doesn't, the sooner you're done, eh? You know. And when winter comes along, not me. I don't watch television all winter. No, I have my hobbies, say. Yeah.
What are some of your hobbies?
Oh, I don't know. I've built a lot of things for Eric for the work he's in the oil fields, and a few different things. Well, not parts and all that. Some creating a few sets of lights for on the derricks and that, but different things like that. I'm into some artistic ironworks. I can do. Oh, I got the benders and all the control. I like controls. What you need for making those scrolls, eh? Yeah.
Well, I see some old farm machinery. Should we walk down there and talk about the old farm machinery?
Yeah, we can do that.
What do we have down here?
Well, we got a grain loader setting here, which should be put away for. We won't be needing that for a little while, unless the crop gets too big that we need two of them. I had gotten that out from out the back this spring and never did use it. It's still parked here, but it's got to get back there now. And
a grain loader. What is that? That right there?
Pardon me?
That's a grain loader.
Yeah,
I didn't grow up on a farm, so
yeah,
it's not a John Deere tractor. I really don't know much.
That's the old grain loader. Eh?
That's the old grain loader.
Loads the grain from your truck into the grain.
So can you explain it to me a little bit, like how you work? How does it work? Like what do you?
Well, you either you put that up on the grain on the bin, eh? Like on the old bins here, we'd open up that hole and put the grain loader in and set it out here, and you back up to the truck, up with the truck, and dump it in the end there. You put a hopper down there, and when you load out, you just reverse everything and stick it in the doorway and load back. And if, for pastime, you can keep on doing that. Eh? Eventually, you wear your grain out.
Is that what you did for fun?
No, I don't call that fun. Once that is enough. Moving it once.
So all of these buildings, these square buildings, are old granaries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they were on your farm when you grew up?
No. That was an old barn I moved out from town and sheeted it up and used it for a bin, and it's rotting out now. And these two here I built. You know, they were built here, yes. Okay. And that round one there I bought, eh? And the other ones, well, I guess they were sheds that we bought, and the one is even a shed from Eric's place that fixed up a bit and store chunk in.
And what about this little one over here?
Well, that used to be a brooder house for baby chicks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was just built special for that, and you'd heat it with an oil burner of some kind, eh?
Okay.
And then later on with electric when we got the power in.
So when you were growing up, you know, you have some pretty nice dirt roads out here now. What were the roads like when you were growing up?
Try that again. I was concentrating on something over there.
What were the roads like when you were growing up?
The roads?
Yeah.
Oh, dirt.
Were they like they are now?
You drive a half a mile and get stuck, and then you go home and get the horse, pull yourself out, and do it all over again.
They're just trails more. Good trails.
Yeah, these trees here, we planted all these trees. They weren't here off the start, you know. Kind of got the evergreens a bit close there, eh? But it's shelters the place.
Were they here when you were growing up?
No. We planted those since they're here. You know, in 50 years you can grow trees. You know, yeah. Well, yes.
Okay, so we have. Let's go over here. Let's start over with this.
One's that made of it, eh? Look at that ground. Oh yeah, well that's just an old wagon here that was used at one time to haul grain to the elevator and haul grain from the thrashing machine. That's the thrash machine right there. And that machine I bought at an auction sale, but we did have one ourselves.
So let's go back to the wagon for a minute. With the wagon, would you hook horses up
Yes,
to it?
yes.
How many horses would it take to?
Well, just the two on a wagon like that, but as you see, it's outlived its usefulness a long time ago.
Where would the person sit?
Well, we just stand on those. Some you could get a seat to put on top there, and if you drove to town here, we never used the seat. But the pole is off it now, and it's rotted out. And but that took many a load of coal home from town, many a load of wheat to the elevator. I used them later on. 3 wagons like that on a tractor to go to the elevator to haul grain.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. So how far was it to the elevator from the farm when you were growing
Well,
up?
we always call it 3 miles, eh? It's a 3-mile drive, eh?
And how often would you have to haul the...
Well, it just depends, what you had to haul and how much you had to haul, and at the time of the year when you did those things. And well, it was mostly after harvest, when it was, after thrashing, that you'd haul a lot of grain to town. Yeah. And anyway, you'd take a wagon like that and park it alongside the thrashing machine, and you would, excuse me, pull that spout up there. That would come around and run the grain from up on top of there. When it thrashed, the grain ended up down in the bottom, and that elevator took it up into that, and it augered it out onto the wagon. And if you didn't have anybody to haul grain, you put it on a pile. You just auger it on a pile, and that's the blower up there for the straw. You turn that out, and if the wind was in the wrong direction, you had to set it in so the straw would blow away, or else it would come all back. And the guys, they called them hay racks. I don't have one anymore, but you drive, one guy, a hay rack would pull alongside here, and it pitched the bundles into here, and the other guy from the other side as well. The guy that pulled up on that side, he had a bit of advantage because the hay rack he could pull up real close. And over here, the drive belt that drove the machine, and that little tractor there drove a machine not quite as big as this, but with a big long drive belt, and went on to that pulley there with that fiber on, and down further like this here was the guide. The guide for this big belt that went on here for like years ago, they used them great big steam engines to drive things like this, eh? And these smaller tractors came along, and some of them a little bigger than this one had the power of one of the big steam engines to drive these things. And if the guy that would pull along here, he would be a little further away, and he'd always have bundles falling down past the rack, and then it would have to be cleaning up down at the bottom, eh? Especially after the machine was moved, when the field was finished or whatever. And he had to pitch the bundles across this belt, and so he had to think a little bit. When he pulled in here, he had to turn his horses away, so they weren't up here by the main drive, what you call the main drive on there. And anyway, I heard one time this one guy, he didn't turn his horses away, out of the way from the belt, and his horse got his tail in and ripped the tail right out of the horse. That could have been painful. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this would all fold up this here. I believe on here it just folded in under. No, I think this one here, this is McCormick. I believe it folded upwards. And there's knives up there. See, all them, what I was talking to you earlier about, the bundles, they all had twine on. And those knives, as they passed into the machine, they cut the twine. And if you didn't have that on, well, it would just pluck right up. But once the twine was off, it went in so much quicker, eh? Yeah. So.
Isn't that the top that thing, did that measure the grain?
Yeah. See, there's where that cover is open.
Mm-hmm.
There. I mean, it's open because it's just the way it's been sitting for years. But there's a tally in there with numbers on, and every time, you know, your grain went up here, up into here, and it dumped. And when it got that heavy in there, there's a weight on the end. It depends. They thrashed by the bushels. You know how many bushels it gave. You know, like oats, what, 48 pounds, or 40 wheat, 60 pounds or what. But they would set that, and then that little dew shaker up there would tell you how many bushels it's thrashed. And every time, it would usually be set at a half a bushel, and every time it got that full, that much weight, that thing would go up and open up just like that and dump it into here, and this auger would be running and dump it into the wagon. It run right along that auger. There's an auger in there that's just like on a grain loader, eh? And yeah, I had one here. I don't know if it was this one. It might have been one of the other ones. Had a complete set of bells for it yet, eh? But it deteriorated so far that I don't know. You'd have a lot of work, you know, trying to repair this main pulley drive here. You know, like some use them. Some places they've kept them inside, and then they'd be much better shape, eh? You know. But anyway, the straw went into here. I don't know if I can get this open. Oh yeah, one would have to be hooked, eh? Oh no, here we go. See, there's a blower in here. See that? Down in there? Uh-huh. See, and the straw would come in here. It's like a combine, eh? Only, you know, the straw would come in off the top here, and what we call the chaff dropped in here, and the straw dropped in, and that blower would take it up and blow it right out of that pipe and onto a straw pile. Yeah, you'd see straw piles out there in the field on a good year that you wouldn't believe it's possible, eh? If there was a good crop. And now you dump all the straw on the ground and work it into the soil, which, you know, years ago you needed that because everybody was feeding cattle and horses. You needed that straw for feed. But nowadays you still need feed, so they drop straw and bale it and all that kind of stuff.
So would you ever have to stay out of school for threshing time?
No, but I know my brothers and sisters did.
Okay.
I just hit the tail end of thrashing. But I did do a lot of making stooks or binder and making bundles and that. I did lots of that with the horses, and but more so with the tractor. With that very tractor there, we put that onto the binder. I don't have a binder here. I want to latch onto one of these times. And
this was the first tractor on the farm?
Yeah, first tractor, and still the first rubber on the back. Tires have been there, never been flat since 1943. Well, it hasn't been used either, but just sitting out in the weather all the time. And this disc here was used with the horses. I never did use it with the horses, but I sure used it with that tractor. I made lots of miles with that tractor with these here.
So when you first started working on the farm with your dad, did you have a tractor or?
No. We didn't have a tractor until we bought this here.
Okay. So how did getting the tractor change your life on the farm?
From horses, right?
Yeah. What was the change from horsepower to
Well,
machine powered?
I tell you, before you went in for lunch, you shut the tractor off. You didn't have to take a bunch of horses to the barn first and feed them, and then you only went in the house and fed yourself.
Well, much easier, for sure.
Yeah, and when you came back out after lunch, you refueled. The tractor was cooled down. You didn't dare and pour. Nowadays, you take a chance or anything. You didn't dare and pour gas in there in fear of a fire. And on this tractor here, you had to open up with what we call a compression, take the compression off. Turn it open on each side, and when the tractor started up and it would shoot, you were sure it was gas coming out of there. It would shoot out of there, and then when the tractor was nicely running, you shut them back up, and then it had its compression for power, eh? If you let them open, you wouldn't pull hardly anything.
You don't have a key to start this. You got a pull start.
Yeah, this here is a pull start.
So they were pull start back
Yeah,
then?
that's a pull start. Yeah, with the you turn that wheel on the side. Yes, and anyway, that's your belt pulley on the side here, and this little tractor drove a machine that looked just like that with one of them big long belts. Oh, he labored, but he done it. He done the job.
So on your farm, do you remember when they went to tractor versus what was that like on your farm?
Oh, you couldn't believe it. Not all that other work, looking after horses and being out in the dust and the insects, how they bother the horses. They had, what do they call those around their mouth to keep them from biting? Those horse flies were always so bad. And what a difference, man.
Did you help on in the fields when you were a kid?
Stu. And when they finally got a tractor to combine, Iska,
She's fine.
like to haul the grain, I had to haul with a wagon and horses, 2 horses and wagon, and haul it home and then shovel it. They finally got an auger. You didn't have to shovel it into a granary once they got the tractor and a combine. And I remember when I come home with a load, Mom would come out to help me, like push it into the middle hole for it to run out, but she couldn't get the loader started. See, this was all new. And then I thought, well, when they hit that motored wash machine, you have to choke it. So I said to Mom, well, I was pretty young, I said, well, you have to choke it like probably the wash machine. And she did, and be darned, the thing went. And then she was glad. So she helped me shovel, and plus all her other work she had in the house. Man. And I used to haul all the way from way north, the field, hauled it to the elevator with the horses, and it was dark already, and I still went for the last load. When you're young and you're dumb, I should have just parked it in the yard. But I said to him, to the elevator agent, I'm coming home. I'm coming with another load. But it got later, though, than I thought. So it was pitch dark, but those horses found their way home. Then you had to unharness them, hang the harness up on there was a place to hang them, that's what they call. Oh, and it was late, and I was just a kid missing all that school because I always had to go home and help.
So did the horses ever get overworked?
Oh yeah, you could overwork anything. You even overwork this thing here. Get them hot in a hot day.
Got their rest, like
Doesn't make them pull too hard.
over dinner hour, but I'm not sure when the combine went, they didn't get the rest. People at least at dinner hour would stop and, they feed them, water them, and then the men had their dinner, and they'd go and lay down until that hour was up, and then they were ready to go again.
Did you ever have an experience with a horse that got a little bit worked or overheated?
Well,
Yeah.
you couldn't help but feel sorry for the horses. You work them too hard, and pretty soon they'd have sores. You couldn't work them, with a collar, lace up in the,
that's right.
up
They'd
in the
sweat.
on each side. They get sore there, eh? And it was even against the law. If the police caught you and you were working a horse with open sores,
Really?
well, yeah.
Did you ever take a horse to school?
To school? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and come home, walking home too.
Well, tell how your story went. That horse that you done away with.
No.
By accident?
That takes too long.
No,
We had no. I went to school on horseback when there was my sister was old enough to stay out of school, and then or quit school or whatever they did in those days. I went to school on horseback until I had a bike. Then I got a bike, and then I biked to school.
Well, how about
Yeah.
when you forgot your lunch and you rode that horse you rode like crazy to get to school in time?
No.
Then you rode home. Isn't that how your story went? Tell it, right?
Geez, it's bad enough you don't have to add on to it yet.
Well, out it comes.
I said it in the house. That's close enough.
Hurry.
Blew the motor on the horse.
Oh, he doesn't want that.
Aw, no fun. Okay, so
I told everything
You did?
that I...
No, you didn't.
so what other type of farm equipment do we have over here?
This whole rig
Yeah,
here.
we're
The
going
old
to
rig.
get to the good stuff now, eh? Yeah, okay, we finished the tractor, eh? We finished the tractor and the disc, right? Okay. Now this is the old hay rake here. I used to rake hay and you name it with this with the horses, and later on I converted it to a tractor model, which still wasn't the answer, but it was sure better than hooking up a team of horses on there. I heard a guy one time, he had a runaway with one of these, with the horses, and he got the one wheel on the other side of a picket fence, and he took down 1/4 mile of picket fence before he ever got the horses stopped. He was fixing fence a lot longer than he was making hay. And this is just another old thrashing machine here. Not any different than that other one. It's just that it's that might be a little smaller machine. It's a Minneapolis. The other one there is a McCormick. That's one I dragged home from an auction sale. Well, they all are auction sale thrashing machines. But the one that we owned ourselves, that is, got traded in, or sold, or something. Thrashing machines went out, and then we got our crop custom combine.
So when you were growing up, did your father have a threshing machine?
No. We had that all custom done. A lot of people worked together. If there was extra guys in the family that could pitch sheaves, you know, they would just stayed on the same outfit. And when it was our turn, they would come here then. And then, you know, the family that went along, one or two boys or whatever, they would come and be at home then, eh? Instead of being gone helping on somebody else's. But that's the way it worked in those days, eh? Yeah.
Oh, we had one at our farm.
You had one at your farm?
Oh yeah, my dad always fixed them up and run them.
Well, he was the engineer.
Whatever
He's the
that was,
engineer,
that's
yeah.
what we
Call
So
him
did
engineer.
your father then go? Did you help out other neighboring farms and go out and?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
like not every farm had one, so they would work, you know, help the neighbors out.
So what is this over here?
This year,
Yeah.
I dragged this home from an auction sale here. It's something. It's an antique, and I'd like to, if they give me enough time yet on this earth, I'll try and restore that as well. I'd like to paint it up, and there's always somebody down the road someplace, maybe looking. Some guys like to. It depends what business they're in. They like to put their yard sign on stuff like that, eh? Yeah. You get a wind like we had today, it won't blow over. Anyway, yeah, well, there's a lot more modern equipment around than what I've got here.
Area was cattle run through here.
No.
Phil, you didn't tell them about all the cattle. This is all our cattle area.
Yeah, well, this used to be our cattle area. That's where Eric used to stack feed. And this was all corrals in here. And Eric would fill all that up back there with feed. And we used to have the machine, well, we have pictures in the house, used to blow it, bring it in loose and blow it on a pile. Like a lot like this worked here, eh? And then we would, and over here we put the bales, and we'd feed with electric wire, eh? You know, to keep the cattle back and give them respect, eh?
We
You know,
didn't do this yet, but why don't we
Get Eric
tell
on
who
it.
Eric is?
Yeah. Well, anyway, he's the guy that put up all the feed, eh? It sure showed when he didn't have time to come home. It went up a lot slower. Yeah.
So Eric is
Your son.
Yeah.
Come on.
Eric's our son.
Yeah, he's our son, right.
Yeah, and
You gotta verify that.
he would when he was close when he was
We
close
look alike,
when he
we
was
always say.
close by home, he would come home after his shift at the rig, and he would put up feed until midnight. And in the morning, after midnight, I didn't see him anymore because he got up and was gone again by 6 o'clock and
Yeah, his
back on the
motorcycle.
job again, or sooner, maybe even 4 o'clock. And so he that's why he's out here today to you know, tell his story, if you like, about you know, the growing up he had.
What did your neighbors say about, like, with all this cattle area? He says you need a map to get around
No,
in here because this was all pens.
I bought a bull from a guy one time, and he liked that bull, and he was so attached to him that he stopped in one time, and he said, "Where's Robin?" I said, "Oh, he's out the back in the corral." So we walked back, and he looked around, and this was all petitioned off. There was watering bowls over there and watering bowls back here, and we calved out most in the winter time, so we had to have lots of space. And he'd come along and he'd ask where Robin is, and then he'd come back and he walked around for a while. And he says, "Maybe you got map for this place?" He was a Pole from Poland, eh? And he'd yeah.
So when you were growing up, how many cattle did you have on the farm?
Well, we never did have that many. Maybe 10 cows and stuff like that. Whatever that barn held, you know.
Oh, but what we
What did you guys have? What
But
did you raise?
when after we were married, we started increasing the herd. Eh? We started buying cattle and you know, keeping heifers back and all this. And we had 98 cows was the most we had. You know, and one year we calved out those 98 cows, and we ended up with 100 calves out of 98 cows because we had 2 sets of twins, and we saved everyone. But we sure spent our time on the Chesterfield those 2 months, though, too.
set 2 alarms when
Yeah.
it was his turn. Make sure we slept through it. One
Yeah.
would hear it.
Come out checking during the night, because in the wintertime, you know, it was always the cow that didn't get brought in that would calf out in the snowbank or something like that.
Well, she decided to calf
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
Then
Decided to calf
usually
early.
the ones that were calf pretty close, they got put in where it was warmer. And sometimes the other ones would fool you. They'd come along unexpected.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up on the farm, would you say it was mostly a grain farm?
Oats.
Yeah, well, you know, where I first remember, there was lots of horses, and we had the horses that you used in the summertime. They'd run loose in the winter, and so did other guys. They'd get mixed up with other guys' horses, and there'd be straw piles out, from those thrash machines, and that's where the horses would spend the winter. And about once a week, we'd go out on horseback, another horse, and bring them in for water, and then they'd be turned loose and they'd spend the winter. But early in the spring, my dad always, and I guess everybody else too, would bring the horses in early and start feeding them oats, so they had power to pull the plow. Yeah. Otherwise, you know, if the guys they didn't put in the hours. You know, they had to put in a half a day, and the horses were done.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the main part of raising grain was oats. It was always like for the cattle and horses more so.
Yeah.
And then was wheat and then barley later on. Well, to put up the straw, barley straw was better, right there. You should be telling this.
Yeah, when we had a lot of cattle, we raised a fair amount of barley on the count. It's a better quality straw for that, you know. It's not like what some guys have, you know. It's a little more work to transporting and taking out of transport, but it does the job for us.
What is it? What is it?
Well, that's what we call a harrow packer bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to know what everything is.
But I mean, you don't pull it down the field this way. You would never get nothing done. Yeah, you pull it, you take it out of transport, and then the hitch is on the other side, and you pull it You cut 45 feet then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you pull that with a tractor?
Yeah,
Okay.
like those tractors over there, eh?
Okay.
Especially the one with the front end loader. That's the main tractor. The other one pulls like this cultivator here, and that discer here and stuff like that. But this cultivator I use all the time yet.
So what do you do with a cultivator?
Well, you pre-work your land or work your summer fallow, whatever, that you're going to be seeding next year.
Okay.
And
That's small farm, not big farm.
yeah,
Not that big, but it does okay for farming.
Okay.
and that's what you pull to pack the lead behind this machine. I build that, eh?
So like this breaks it up and then that packs it back down?
Yes,
Is that
yes,
the idea of it?
Yeah, this rakes it down, harrows it down, and then that packs it. And I put that machine together back there.
Really?
Yeah, I built that out of old cultivator, John Deere cultivators. I have a couple more sitting around here I want to take apart, and maybe someday I'll make something with them. But that's all just the way it all came, but it all kind of fell in place. It's just like they built it to make something else out of it someday.
That's a hammer mill there.
I bought that for $5 down at Tony Vogt's auction sale. I felt sorry for it.
Tell
I
me
never.
what that is.
Yeah, I forget what is that called again. What the name is on it. Yeah, that we wouldn't pay that much attention. That's just you know, some guys call it scrap iron, but it's stuff I dragged home from auction
Tell
sale.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's a
I don't know.
hammer
What
mill.
is it?
Oh, well, I don't know that. There's pipe stands. There's part of an old grass mower for cutting hay. It's just part of one.
Really?
And this here was a hammer mill I bought in auction sale. Maybe someday I'll try and restore it, you know, bring it back to its natural colors, but who knows. And this is just another hay rake. A guy gave me that. It's growing into the weeds.
That's what you ground the grain up with to feed the
Oh.
cattle and,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
oh, yeah,
chickens,
yeah.
The hammer mill.
Okay.
Yeah, there was that part there that's laying over top of there. That hooked onto this here. That's what they called a bagger, eh? And it would, you know, mix the, you know, the powdery stuff from the grain and the grain, the hulls and everything. It would mix it all together, so the pigs or whatever ate it, so they wouldn't. They always push the hulls aside. They were that smart and just eat the good stuff.
So
Yeah.
did you have pigs on the farm when you grew up?
Pardon me?
Did you have pigs on the farm when you grew
Oh
up?
yeah, we raised pigs.
How
Yeah, I
many
had
do
a
you
great
have?
big pig fence right in the back there, and oh yeah, we maybe had 100 pigs at one time.
Really?
Oh yeah, we ate a few sows and that, and yeah, that's just old stuff there. Like that there, that's actually a tiller like that. We call it a tiller with blades on. Replaced that what's behind that tractor over there. It only cut 6 feet. By the time you were finished in a big field, it was getting green again around the outside. And there's some more antiques I dragged home from auction sales.
What do we have here?
Oh, that's what they call a tumblebuck for moving dirt around. I ended up with another one here. It was an auction sale, and I got another one at an auction sale. Now I got twins, Eric. Yeah.
So how did they work?
Well, they didn't have a hydraulic on these things. You know, you hook your tractor on here, and then you pull the rope here, and then this thing would come around the way it is now, and you pull it into the dirt, and load dirt up, eh? And then you pull it again, and then it would tumble around and unload the dirt. And somebody had an idea. They didn't work that great. In loose dirt, you know, to move a bit of loose dirt, I guess they were okay. They're just an antique. There's guys, contractors, road builders or something like that. They like something like that to put their yard signs on, because they're in the earth moving business.
Okay.
And that there is for seed and fertilizer at seeding time. I haven't used that for a couple of years. And you know, you put your seed in one. You put that in the back of your 3-ton truck.
Oh, it actually goes in the back of it?
And then you plug it in, and augers on there are hydraulic, and to turn them. And this is an. Oh yeah, you want to get a picture of that? And this is an old road grader I picked up at an auction sale. And I don't know.
So how would this work?
I hope someday to paint it up, and somebody might have use, maybe take it out to Eric's place in the hill. There's always guys out there looking for something. You never know.
How would this work? How would you work this?
Well, they used to pull these with horses, this model here, and the guy would stand on the back here and turn and put the blade up and down, or I think they would run it into the ground maybe and angle the blade. You'd angle the blade two different directions here. And yeah, and this one here, they used horse at one time, but I see somebody put a hitch on here for a tractor, and then somebody could stand on the back. And
so how many horses would it take to pull something like this?
I imagine the 4 horses would be okay on here. There was maybe some models, maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe they might have had 6 on. Yeah. And this is a rock digger here that Eric and I built, and you want to get the name of it on there, what we called it.
So tell me what a rock digger does.
Digs rocks.
You gotta tell me a little bit more than that.
Yep,
Big
no.
rocks that are being a nuisance and breaking your cultivator, you wanted to pull them out of the ground.
Okay.
And
Can I get each of you to stand next to it and I'll get some pictures talking about it next to it? So when we're talking great big rocks, how big of rocks are we actually talking? Like big boulders?
Yeah, you can get them out like that. We've taken them out.
How long did it take you to build this?
Oh, we didn't work steady on it. We worked off and on. Yeah, and it's a lot of good used heavy-duty farm iron from different machines went into it. The wheels are off a semi in itself, eh? But
Eric was saying something.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Eric?
it's all built out of used farm equipment.
yeah, the shanks on the back, we got them cut out in Saskatoon by those who didn't come out of farm iron.
It took us a month to build it. So we
Yeah.
tore all the old equipment apart and
Yeah.
put it back together.
So why did you name it the Badger?
Well, it digs, I guess. You know what a badger is?
Yes, I know what a Badger is.
Yeah, okay. If you know what a badger is, and then you'll,
Do you know?
then
Do
you'll
you
know
have
why.
badgers around here?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes. I know I just got a crazy notion, I guess, and called it a badger. Put it on there. We didn't know what to call it. Everybody else has a name. We didn't want to put a lang digger or something like that. We could have put a land digger on, a rock digger, but everybody can see that it's a rock digger. But I don't know. It's just something that comes.
So do you use it still?
Well, once in a while you hook onto it, and yeah, I've let it. One guy in particular that I knew, he'd look after it, and I let him use it one time. Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't use it very much though. I wish he'd had more use for taking it that far.
Sorry.
Get through the mud here.
And this I don't have to explain.
That's a truck.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what that is. Eh? I thought
I
since
can ID that.
I thought with this name on, but I better not say anything. Eric's a Dutchman.
They were good trucks in that Dodge. That was a good truck.
So what's this right here?
Oh, that's just what you call a fork type rock picker.
Okay.
A little fork type rock picker for bigger stones, like that you can get into the machine sitting alongside of it. Eh? It's something we don't use very much anymore. And this is what you call a real type, not a real, like real, a real type rock picker. Eh? You drive into the stones, and not too big of ones, and it loads them into the bucket at the back, and then you pull your hydraulic lever, and one it'll drive the reels. This is a hydraulic in particular. We put hydraulic on this one, which makes it a much better picker.
So you didn't have something like this when you were growing up.
Oh no.
What'd you use to pick rocks? How long and how often would you have to pick rocks?
As often as they come out of the ground, which seemed like every day.
They work the land
Yeah.
in the spring, fall, or in the summer.
Every Sunday after church.
Well,
Yeah, Sunday after church. Oh no, that was a no-no. Nobody picked rock on Sunday. Nobody went in the field on Sunday in those days.
What was Sunday like in those days?
The way Sunday should still be right now, but it isn't.
time to rest up
Yep.
and go to church for sure. But you still had your chores to do, which you couldn't get away from.
Yeah, the cows had to be milked. That's when we had nothing to say about not working Sundays. The chores had to be done. Yeah. Whether it was winter or summer. Yeah. Only in the summer you didn't have the chores in the winter. But in the winter you got up real early and did chores, and then you went to church. And after church, well, if there was any chores to be done, or any left over from in the morning, you did them then. And by the evening time come, the cows had to be milked, winter or summer. Yeah.
So
And
what
before-
else do we have over here?
Well, nothing really to, just a fuel tank, and that used to be an old baler there, an old, what they call a dirt dragger. Loaded up more dirt than straw. That one, but that's just scrappy. And this is just something we used to use for seeding, a seed right, eh?
Okay.
We used to seed everything with that. And it could still do the job, but you started working with a lot of straw, and they wouldn't go through the straw as well. On plain black land or summer fallow, you call, they were good, eh? They were a good machine for that. And you don't know, and if you want to get a shot back here, it's another project, if they let me stay here long enough. I just dragged them back. They used to sit over beside the barn. Look at that wind. Just look at the trees they broke. Look at lots of them. Look. Sure, snap them off. These are what we call, they were just little pony drills. I bought them at an auction sale. And sometime down the road there might be a demand for them. They make a good yard signs. Some people will open up them boxes on top and plant flowers in. Some I've even seen painted them pink and flowers on it, decoration on them. And yeah, so there were 6 there. So they're getting more scarce because people are selling all stuff like that, for scrap iron. They all go to the smelters because the price of iron is so high. Yeah. So yeah, this used to be all corrals, and everything full of feed in here, all the way up to here, and electric wire across there. And we even had goats in that old building. That's gotta go out to the chunk, eh? Yeah.
Well, let's go to the front of the barn. And
To the front,
yeah,
not to this end.
Yeah,
No,
the front of the barn,
no.
and talk about the barn.
This end doesn't belong here. No, that's all got to be done. That's all it's supposed to be redone. See how these things are dying now?
Mm-hmm.
I sprayed that with Roundup. Yeah, and it's all curling up now. Oh yeah, there was this high grass in here, and I cut it down. You can see all the dead stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mulched all that up, and yeah. By the time I was all finished with this guy, I had all these and those at the back here yet too. I had a whole trailer load of wheels. Yeah. These are wheels here, Jessica, of what we call the hay rack, where they haul the feed to the thrashing machine, or the bundles to the thrashing machine. That's what they were under, this bunch right here. The other ones, they probably came out of old plows, and these probably came off a drill that they used to seed the crop with the horses, a big high wheel on each side. And this is just a box I bought from a guy. I've been trying to get that from for 10 years, and he finally moved to Unity, and he sold it to me now, eh? Norman Glessing's grain tank. Yeah. And these were the drive wheels of what we call the binder. The binder that tied the bundles, for the thrash machine.
Well, that was the type of wheels that were on your John Deere tractor.
Hmm?
See, that was the type of wheels that were on your John Deere tractor.
Not this one. I don't know. Those could have been Stuke loader wheels. They might have been. I don't know. I think it looks something, but it might be entirely something different. Well, this barn was built maybe in 1926 or 27. And the other, it was a bigger barn just to our left from here. And it was a much bigger barn than this, and it had what they call the hay slings up in it. And it was in late October it burned down. They were ready for the winter, full of feed and everything burned. And that one was on a foundation. And this was built then. In those days you just didn't haul gravel in it cement as quick as you do now. So this one is setting on flat rocks. And it's done pretty darn good for being just on stone, And so they just built the bottom part, no loft on it, and left it open like that over the winter. How it was with the feed business, I don't know how that all went then. And then in the springtime, my dad brought a carpenter in and put the roof on it. Yeah. And that ventilator up there, that wasn't on the barn here. Neither was the rooster up there. My neighbor and I put that up there. Yeah, that wasn't an easy job. That little roof, I had that given to me from a guy. He had thrown it off an old barn, and it was all in one piece yet. Looked just the way it's there, but not painted. And then we built those sides and took them up there. And then with that old front end loader out the back there, I put a long pole on the front and hung that little roof on the end, and that roof is bigger than it looks from down here, a lot bigger. And hoisted that right up and mounted it on there and nailed her down. And it's been up there for, I don't know.
30 years.
Yeah,
But
30,
that's actually
30
like,
all of 30 years, eh?
Yeah, that's actually like an air vent because
Yeah.
it's boxed in coming down.
Well, in those
air
days,
out from the, where the cattle and everything stood.
in those days, we housed a lot of cattle inside, especially the cows that calved. And then it got so damp in there, and there's a wooden pipe running all the way up inside into that would draw the moisture, the condensation from the cattle up through there, and it sure made a lot of difference. Yeah, well, there's lots of barns. A lot of barns were built with that on, but this one didn't have it on, eh?
But
So
usually
I
they
put
had
one
2
on.
or 3 vents, like it was a bigger barn.
And the guys that done the shingling here, they just the one guy went up there and painted it for me.
Cattle, anything.
Yeah.
They made a lot of steam.
So anyway,
So
what
when
else?
you were a kid, Phil, would you play out here? Would this be a place where you would play with your brothers and sisters?
Well, if they'd play with me. But when you're the youngest of 10, who wants to play with you?
Well, where did you play? Over closer to the house?
Any place.
Any
place
what did you
you
play?
want.
What type of things did you do?
Oh, chase myself around when I was alone.
Did you ever catch yourself?
Eh?
Did you ever catch yourself?
I can't remember. That's too long ago. I don't know what I'd have done with me if I would have got it. I'd probably beat the heck out of myself. But anyway, yeah, no, we used to play ball in this yard, or the neighbors would come and we'd play ball. And
Oh, you used to hook up your dog in wagon rides or something, wasn't it? With a wagon?
No,
dog.
I had a dog that I drove on the sleigh in the wintertime. Yeah, I'd go over to the neighbors for half a mile and back 3 or 4 times a day. Just to exercise the dog, I guess.
Do
Yeah.
you remember your dog's name?
Yeah, Sporty.
Sporty?
Yeah.
What type of dog was it?
Oh, it's a collie cross.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he got run over by a car one time, went out on the road, He liked to chase cars too, and he got his hind leg broke, and you could just feel the broken bones, and that dog healed up again, and I drove him on the sleigh again. You'd have never thought that he ever had broken bones. Yeah, he's a tough guy.
Well, what about that
And-
dog when we got married, was still here, and your mother lived here. When we wanted to butcher roosters, like they were free, like all over the
Oh,
yard.
he'd do that. That was sporty.
No,
He
and
did
then
that.
your mother would point out which one she wanted him
Yeah.
to catch. So, and he'd go after it until he had the rooster that she pointed out, and then he put his paws on the wings, held it down, didn't hurt him, until she come then to catch him for butchering.
Yeah.
What was the name of that dog again?
Well, sporty done that. Sure.
Wasn't it a blackish dog? That
And
one?
he'd get, when he heard the milk pails, rattle in the porch to go milking, by the time you got out, the cows were standing behind the barn waiting to open the door and let him in. He knew to go and get the cows all by himself.
By the rattle
Didn't have to be told.
of the tails.
Yeah.
So since it's getting late, let's ask a few concluding questions for you guys. First, tell me how you two met.
Oh boy. That's 50 years ago.
51 more.
You should remember it like yesterday.
Right
Yeah,
on.
you should, yeah, but if you don't, you don't.
Come on, you do.
Oh, I don't know how many times did we meet.
Well, don't you remember the show at Revenue?
Oh, it had to be at a show. There was no other entertainment around. Well, maybe you dance once in a while.
Sunday nights always.
This happened through a show, or shows at Revenue, at her hometown.
Would you usually go up to Revenue to see a show? When you
Well,
could,
Yeah, I'd seen more of her sometimes than the show.
they were looking for girlfriends, different from their hometown.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was getting at. Yeah, because Trampy Lake's right there.
Yeah, it's not that far, Revenue. Back, what is it, 5 miles? North?
Well, if they don't want you in your own hometown, you look elsewhere.
So how old were you when you two met?
Oh, who knows? Oh, well, she,
I was only 15.
yeah.
Or wasn't I even 15? Only that January, maybe? This was in the summer. Because we went, like dated or whatever, say for 3 years until we got married.
She was in
But we
school,
couldn't
for
always
sure.
go out because, well, in those days you just didn't.
Yeah, what was dating like back then?
Oh, tough.
Tough to get a date.
Especially if you didn't have a girl. It's tough.
Well, you'd be just glad to meet each other again, and usually, well, it was always Sunday nights was show night, and that's where you used to meet a lot. During the week, there's no way, you know, because you weren't allowed out, you were too young, which
Well,
was good.
in those days, if you seen your girlfriend once a week, maybe once in 2 weeks, you were a lot gladder to see her than nowadays. Nowadays, you live with him. You see him every day. But now, yeah,
So
that's
you,
just the way it was, eh?
you dated for 3 years. So how old were you when you got married?
How old were you?
Not quite 18. December 26th we got married, right? And then January 5th was my birthday, then I turned 18. So, like I said, then my dad had to sign so I could get married. Was that tough? Only a few days away and you still had to sign. Because you had to be 18 for anything. You had to get married.
So what year was that?
1955, December.
When we got married?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how old were you, Phil?
21 maybe? Was I 21?
Well, we're
Pretty
for
close.
a month and 2 days difference. We're 4 years apart then.
Okay.
So I think you were 21.
Yeah.
Oh, those
You-
are your puppies
Now
crying.
you, now you want to hear how it was when we got married?
I want to hear about the wedding.
Holy smokes, that was, now you're going to get a earful. That's the story in itself.
Wow,
You're going to
very.
freeze. There'll be snow on the ground by the time I get finished with that one.
Tell 'em
Yeah,
how it is.
well,
How it
we
was.
got married on the 25th of December,
No, 26th.
or 26th, I mean. That's what I meant, day after the 25th.
I got in.
But anyway,
I was there, remember?
do I remember? That I remember better than getting married. Yeah, that was quite a trip. I left here on Christmas Eve with the mailman. That was on the 24th. We had our mail day that day, and I went 5 miles from here to Revenue on with the horse and sleigh with the mailman, and then we stayed overnight. I went to midnight mass in her town, but she wasn't there anymore. She left in Unity at this time, eh? Yeah, her folks had moved to Unity, eh? And so that's where she was. But I got up there for rehearsal and all that, and when it came down, the roads were blocked, eh? So I stayed overnight, went to midnight mass, and stayed overnight in Revenue. Left the next morning again with the mailman, and went on to another another stop, about another 15 miles with the horse and sleigh. And then we had Christmas dinner there. Then we went on into Scott, and the road was open from Scott to Unity, and this guy, for $10, he took me to Unity with his car. And then the next day was the wedding in the morning at 10 o'clock, and we walked to the church, which was just across the back alley from where she lived in Unity with her folks. And then after the wedding, we had dinner, and the priest came and had dinner with us at the house. And then we went to a show that night. It was the only entertainment in Unity, two theaters, and so we stayed at the one with the living desert, and it was all insects crawling around, no sound. That's the treat we had. And then the next morning, the train was leaving Unity, and we had to go over on the other side of Unity to the CP station and catch the train to go to Wilkie, because later in the morning, the train from Wilkie was coming to Tramping Lake. And so there was a taxi service in Unity, so the taxi drove until he got stuck, and we had about, close to a quarter of a mile yet, and the station we had to get our tickets, was on the other side of a train, so we grabbed our suitcases, which were cardboard boxes tied shut with bale twine or binder twine, and we crawled through the bottom of this train. She first, of course, crawled through the bottom of the train, and made it over to the other side to get on the train that was leaving. And it was probably just a freight train that was sitting there anyway, so there was nothing hooked to it. We took a chance anyway. We were desperate. So we I got to Wilkie okay on the train, and from there we made it in time and caught the train to Tramping Lake from Wilkie. And then when we got to Tramping Lake and got off the train, my dad was waiting there with the closed-in sleigh with a team of horses. And the rest is history, I guess.
Let's walk over to the sign real quick, because I want to ask a couple things about the sign, and then we'll be done. But as we're walking, why don't you tell me what your parents thought of each other? Did your parents like Phil?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Watch you don't get hidden them up there.
How about your parents, Phil? Did they like Liz when she first came around?
Well, she was a Catholic German. They had nothing else. Those were the days. That's all it seemed to matter, eh? It's also the same religion, eh?
So how long does a Catholic wedding last in those days?
Well, I don't know. Well, in those days you got married at 10 o'clock in the morning. That was even before me. And they had two meals, and they get married at 10 o'clock, have a dinner at 12, and then they celebrated all afternoon, danced and whatever. This happened right here in this house. And then there was supper again at 6 o'clock, and then more dancing and more drinking and whatever went with it in those days.
Drinking,
You know.
what would you drink?
Oh, probably a lot of guys, if they had home brew, that was.
Homebrew?
I never ever did taste home brew, but some guys made it, and some guys had it at weddings, I guess. And
I'm going to have you three stand next to this sign and tell me what this is about.
oh yes,
All
okay.
three of you. This is the family farm. I want to hear about this sign because this is a great sign.
Well, it's just what it reads on there, you know. It's for the 100 years, 1905, you know, to 2005, and as you can see, if your camera will pick that up, what the land location is here. Will it pick that up? Okay. And also the RM is on here. We had that put on extra. Actually, the sign came. The government wasn't involved in that, but it sure wasn't free. You know, you still paid for that. And then, well, being that Eric's been so much a big part of this farm, you know, we had his name put in here as well. Yeah. Yeah, if you make it dark enough. My wife says those little wheels I put on top don't look right on there. Takes away from the sign, so I haven't had time to take them down, but maybe one of these days I'll surprise her.
What's on the bottom?
And this here, so well, you can tell that.
No, you tell.
Well, that is for our 50 years, eh? Of you know, that we're married. We added that on yet, so it worked out 100 years for the farm and 50 years for us. All in the same year, right? And so anyway, I put lights around, but I see something happened here. I'm going to have to change. I guess they only last so long, them rope lights. I'll just have to run in another one here.
Maybe the hail did something? Windstorm?
Well, there's part of that one too, so I have to look at replacing.
I have one last question for each of you. I'd like you both to answer this question. Why did you want to participate in this study today?
Well,
Oh, I don't know. I thought it'd be interesting.
well, I always love history, and I guess you can never learn too much, and we're part of some of this history, I guess, with being here, like the farm being here 100 years.
Yeah, I was telling Will in the house, I showed him her collection of history books. You didn't see that, eh? So you can see that she's a history buff, you know. She likes lots. Actually, I read more than she does out, and she was the, you know, is the one that, you know, bought all them books, eh? Yeah.
No, I would have loved to read more, but since I had my eye trouble, like I can't handle reading too long, because that was my favorite pastime, was reading.